All right, welcome, welcome. As we're waiting for everyone to enter from the waiting room, if you would like to put in the chat your name and what's your role with literacy into the chat, that would be fantastic. So we could see what everyone is, what roles everyone has, and you can also put where you're from. So we'll see if we have mostly people from the great Commonwealth of Virginia tonight, or if we have different folks from across the nation. Fantastic. Welcome to everyone. And all right, well, I'd like to get started and officially welcome everyone who's joining us tonight. I am Susan Campbell, the president of the Reading League of Virginia, and we are thrilled to have you join us tonight. We're also honored and thrilled to have with us many different educators from across the Commonwealth who will share how the Virginia Language and Literacy Screening System, VALLSS, helped to drive instruction in their buildings this year as they piloted the new assessment. Before we begin tonight, I want to let everyone know that this event is being recorded. The recording will be posted to our website in the next few days. If you have any questions or thoughts, you can post those in the chat. There may be an opportunity where we can address some of those if there are questions in the chat. If not, we can touch base after tonight's event. Now I'd like to take this opportunity to tell you a little bit about the Reading League of Virginia. The Reading League Virginia is a chapter of the Reading League. Our chapter consists of 11 board members and, of course, our wonderful members who support our work, vision, and mission. Thank you to our members who also serve as committee members as well. We're excited to share the members and their roles for the 2024 Executive Board coming up next year, or excuse me, in August. We're always looking for members to join committees and for those who may be interested in leadership roles as well. If you're interested in serving in a leadership role within the Reading League of Virginia, or you'd like to recommend someone for a leadership position within our organization, or if you just want more information about those opportunities, you can check out the link that'll be posted in the chat to our membership forum. You can also share that information. That's where you can share information, and one of our office, if you want to get more information, excuse me, one of our officers will be in touch with you to share more information about those opportunities. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the Reading League Virginia's vision. Our work is focused on promoting our vision that every educator be prepared to implement evidence-based practices to meet the diverse profiles of all students with the goal of becoming skilled, lifelong readers. And we know that you've joined us tonight as well because you share a similar vision. You can take a moment and read our mission. And the reason we're here together tonight is to promote an understanding of how the evidence base and data from our evidence-based data will inform our classroom practices. Before we officially start, I want to thank Jennifer Sassano, who's our vice president. I want to thank her for organizing this event tonight. So thank you very much, Jen. I also want to say an initial thank you to all of our panelists for their time and insight tonight. Now I'm going to turn the event over to Jen so we can start.
Hi, thank you so much, Susan, for that warm introduction. And thank you to everyone for being here with us this evening. As Susan mentioned, my name is Jennifer Sassano, and I'm thrilled to be hosting and facilitating this panel of educators from around the Commonwealth tonight. This is actually our second professional panel that we've held in the Reading League of Virginia, and you can still find our first one on our website, the link to that recording. Tonight's recording will also be posted on our website, so we hope that you continue to visit our resources, view our professional learning, and of course, share it with others. We do aim to really focus on the needs of our stakeholders in Virginia, and you'll notice that trend preparing for the VLA and going into next year. ensuring that everyone feels comfortable and confident with the changes, the fabulous changes that are coming to our classrooms. And really, that was the idea behind our panel this evening. So we are going to be speaking with educators from around the Commonwealth, and I'm going to briefly introduce them, but we also posted their bios in the chat for you. We have Tori Gelbert here from Culpeper County Public Schools, and she is the current principal of Emerald Hill Elementary School. Thank you, Tori. And we have Tara Thompson, who is a reading specialist, also in Culpeper County Public Schools at Yowell Elementary School. And we have 3 members. These are returning members, actually. They were Middletown Elementary was part of our first professional panel last school year as well. And this time we have Patty Griffith, Chris Livingston, and Cindy Petty with us from Middletown Elementary in Frederick County Schools, Virginia. And then we have Tabitha Carter from Rockingham County. Tabitha is in her 3rd year as a literacy coach for Rockingham City Public Schools. And Ann Bragg, also coming from Rockingham County. She is a literacy coach along with Tabitha. And then we have Hillary Story coming to us from Southampton County Public Schools at Riverdale Elementary School. And she is has a wide variety of experience and training on science of reading. So as a reading specialist, we're thrilled to hear from Hillary tonight. So that is our panel. You are going to be hearing from them. We have a series of questions all about the VALLS driving classroom instruction. So we'll dive right into that. Our first topic, we've heard around the Commonwealth that the training for VALLS has been very successful and flexible in the model, which prepares teachers to really pilot that assessment. So you all have were selected to be a part of this panel because you were part of that pilot this year. So you got kind of an inside look and a great experience that we all can learn from, really. So on the topic of learning, professional learning, as you were implementing this VALLS pilot, can you tell us a little bit about that professional learning that you received and what the follow-up support looked like? And for that first question, I think Tara is going to kick us off.
Yes, hi everyone. The online training was very helpful as questions and issues arose during implementation. The VLP office was very quick to respond to emails and phone calls. The VALLS homepage is full of helpful information and resources for teachers to use throughout the school year. Oh,
all right.
Sorry, I thought I unmuted myself. Hi,
no,
everyone.
you're great. You're doing great.
Okay.
So thank you. So you really found the online training for you and your teachers in your school helpful, and that follow-up support. Thank you. And then we have Tori also is going to share a little bit about that professional learning.
Yeah, so I also got to participate in it as well as our teachers, and it was a really good training that helped prepare us. I will also say that throughout the year, it was really great that we continued to get updates when things change and we found new reports. So it just continued to get better and easier for us to access throughout the year.
Well, thank you, Tori. That's good to know that you were getting timely updates on various reports, because I'm sure we'll have people looking out for those next year as well. Tabitha was going to add to that.
Yeah, so in Rockingham County, the coaches did the training as well as all of our reading specialists. We took the kindergarten training and the 1st through 3rd grade training, as well as the pre-K also. So we were able to support all of our teachers giving any of the VALLS. And then all of our teachers also completed the training based on what grade level they were in. And then something that we did in addition, our reading specialists meet with our teachers by grade level once a week. So they were able to really follow up with grade levels on specific questions that they had. They practiced talking through different things like the retail and things that were new. So our reading specialist really provided a lot of support after they completed that training.
Wow, thank you. Thank you for sharing that model that you all had in Rockingham. And next we're going to go to Middletown to share what your pilot experience was like with the professional learning.
Oh, there you go. Hi, yes, we also completed the online training in the fall. And then upon completion, each of our grade level teams met with the school coaches and the administrators to review our assessment binders and ask any questions we had at that time. Got our schedule all together and completed the assessments according to the timeframes, which was great to have that schedule. It was also great that upon completion of the fall assessment, we reconvened as a team and reviewed our results and then planned for instruction from there. It was very helpful information. We were able to set up interventions for students that fell in the high risk band. And at the time we asked questions, shared our testing experience with others in our teams and vertically in other grade levels as well. And I'm kindergarten, so I was able to speak with first grade teachers and get some feedback as well. And then, we turned our binders back into a central storage location until the next round. So it was really helpful information for us.
Yes, and then prior to our mid-year testing cycle, we met again to go over the procedures like Patty mentioned, and we went over any necessary updates to the testing protocols. So even though there aren't any like mid-year benchmark scores to review, we did meet together as a team to look for progress. We looked for trends made by students and just like any areas of concern. And then our discussions were conducted about our intervention groups and our progress that was made. We made decisions and adjustments to our tier 3 interventions, and then classroom teachers looked at adjustments to their tier 1 and tier 2 instructional plans. And then prior to our spring assessment that we just gave, teachers met in teams again to review the manual, review the subtests that they needed to administer, their time frame. We set up a testing schedule with the protocols, and then we just reviewed our final assessment data and have all that information recorded and ready to go into next school year. And our coaches have been an integral process with this, being able to address questions and get answers as they've come up during this pilot process.
Wow, Middletown, you are just such a model. We know you implemented scientifically based reading practices far ahead of the VLA schedule. And just based on your response, it is so apparent that not only did you set aside time for your teachers with that professional learning, but then also continued the professional learning through a CLT model throughout the school year. So I know we'll all be thinking about professional learning models going into next year. And it sounds like that CLT structure really allowed you to continue that. And we have Hillary with Riverdale Elementary that's going to share a little bit more.
Yes, we participated in the online certification tutorials provided by VALLSS as well. Our teachers, reading specialists, and administrators were given time in our preschool workshop days to get those trainings completed. We also turned in our certificates of completion to our central office. The teachers, reading specialists, and administrators were also provided with the hotline phone number and the email, and they were dynamic. They have been wonderful through this whole process with any questions we have had throughout the year. It's been great.
Thank you so much, Hillary, for reminding us of that hotline and where we can go. And I have to say that has been consistent feedback all school year, is that the VLP staff working with that hotline in the email, they are just on it, responding to concerns. So thank you for sharing that out. And also hearing from you about how your school too really was intentional about carving out time for that professional learning to make sure things went smoothly. So thank you all for sharing about the professional learning. We're going to switch gears a little bit to our next question and talk about, we're really interested in how teachers have formed instructional groups by skill rather than by level. So this is a change for some classrooms around the Commonwealth, and it's one that we are very excited and interested in. Can you please tell us a little bit about how your students' VALLS data helped you to really form those instructional groups? We'll start with Tori for that one.
Yeah, so in addition to the VALLS, we also in our county use an additional national normed assessment. So we were able to use both of them and really drill down student by student, going through every student and where their areas of need were, and then make groups based on those specific areas of need and not just a tier. So that was really helpful for our teachers to look at that data and work with us to create those groups.
Thank you, Tori. And I love that you're using multiple data sources and really drilling down to those student needs. Anne is going to share with us next from Rockingham. Oh, Anne, can't hear you quite yet.
Thank you. As literacy coaches, we review data at the district level, school level, and by classroom teacher for the schools that we work in. So when looking at the school and grade level, we assist the reading specialists and administrators in looking at trends with the data and how to support each of the grade levels. And then at the classroom level, we would meet with the reading specialists and analyze the data to determine specific instructional needs, not only for our high-risk kids, but also for our moderate-risk kids, to determine what their instructional needs were. And then from that information, we're able to work out the groupings based on their instructional needs and adjust it with their progress monitoring throughout the year. For example, at one of the biggest schools, we met with the reading specialists and we set up meetings with each individual teacher in K through 2. And then we went over their classroom data, determined which students needed EIRI, and then how we were going to meet those needs based on our schedules. And then between fall, mid-year, and end-of-year screenings, we did the ongoing progress monitoring to keep their instructional needs in flexible grouping in several of the grade levels.
That is great. And Rockingham, another one, we're so thrilled to be here for your expedited, really, implementation of scientifically based reading practices. And in your response, it really comes through how reading specialists are able to coach and help look at that data and progress monitor students to keep those groups flexible. So thank you so much. Tabitha is also from Rockingham, so she's going to add to that response.
Yeah, so Anne pretty much summed up a lot of what we do. Our teachers have for, I guess, 3 years now been teaching their small groups based on skill, mostly with phonics in K2, obviously. And that's been a change for them, but they have gotten pretty good at that. This year, we kind of threw them for a loop with the flexible grouping piece of it. We did have some teachers who are really eager to do that. So they really managed to change their groups using data. And then we started with the instructional indicators that VALLS gives, but really as a whole, we kind of looked at those, Ann and I, and said, okay, what do we need to do for tier 1? Like we have lots of first grade classes that have a star for encoding. So when we our reading specialists meet each week, we send out a newsletter with information. So Ann and I were able to provide ideas to how they could put more instruction into their encoding and whole group and small group. So we've kind of had a mixture of the indicators and flexible grouping, but some teachers are starting to get the hang of it.
Thanks so much, Tabitha, for all of your hard work in that and for sharing with us. Next, we're going to head over to Middletown again. How have you helped your teachers to really use this data to shift to skill-based instruction versus leveled instruction?
Oh, this is one of my favorite questions because with the VLP, there is amazing amount of data that we could use and be able to download it into spreadsheets for our teachers. So we would look at grade level data in all the different domains. And I know someone had just asked a question about all the different domains that are in VALLS because they're different than in PALS. But we were able to look at the domains kind of in a progressive order to see where students were struggling, where those indicators were at. We also could use those the download of the data to be able to see which students are EIR identified and be able to group them that way. But really our teachers were very flexible and were grouping within the skills and the domains that their class needed. And then by by looking at the spreadsheets in fall, winter, and spring, those groups were constantly changing, which really helped with the instruction and the teachers feeling like the kids were making a lot more growth because we were really eyes on and changing up those groups. So it's been a great change this year with that.
Wow, thank you so much. And that's what we want to hear, making this change successfully. And I think people really start to buy in when they see that success, and feel like their students are progressing. So I'm so happy for you that you've experienced that. Hillary is going to share a little bit about that as well.
Yes, we did have to administer additional tests like others have mentioned for some of the subcategories to just get some explicit data on our students. The tests we used honed in on exactly what the students knew and what they had not yet mastered, so it assisted the teachers with their groupings as well.
Excellent, excellent. Multiple data points. We love that, and keeping those groups flexible. Thank you, Hillary. So on that topic, that is a perfect segue into our next question, which is, how did you keep the instructional groups flexible? We know how important that is, that we're responding to student data and meeting our students' needs so that they can experience the most growth possible. So how did you keep those instructional groups flexible, Tara?
I support teachers at my school with looking at data weekly to plan small group instruction for the following week. Through looking at screening, progress monitoring, program, and informal assessment data, we target specific skills and do not run stagnant groups. Some students are pulled one-on-one for a few minutes each day, while others may not need any individualized skill work for the week and can work on enrichment activities. From the conversations I've had with my teachers around planning these flexible groups that include targeted skill practice, I've learned that teachers feel relieved to have the ability to target instruction to this level with their students, and that they don't have to run 15-minute long groups that rotate to try to meet the needs of all learners. Corrective feedback and quick check-ins during independent time is also a great way to target skills and support students as they practice new skills.
It is excellent to hear that coming directly from the field, that that we are looking at restructuring that ELA block as a whole to really meet students' needs based on data. Thank you so much. Anne?
Yes, so this has been a challenge for our teachers to grasp this year. However, as Tabitha mentioned, we had some teachers that wanted to try it as soon as they learned about it. That has definitely helped, as now those teachers are helping us and our reading specialists to support the teachers that are moving towards flexible grouping. We have our teachers bring quick checks as they progress monitor after they have taught a concept. We support the reading specialists and teachers as they analyze the quick checks to determine specific needs their students have. And then we provide guidance on how to group those students based on each of those needs.
Thanks. And Tabitha was going to add on.
Yes, so like we had already mentioned, we had a few teachers who were really interested in starting this. One particular teacher that really took off from like the second week of school, she just came to me and said, I don't feel like I'm doing enough when I'm meeting with every group, trying to get all my kids in every day. I can't do what they need. And she said, can I try this? And I said, absolutely, you can try this. So she has worked all year on these flexible groups, and she will be the first to tell you it was hard at first because she's literally checking every Friday and taking notes in a notebook. She calls it her handy dandy notebook. And whatever they have trouble on, whether it's adding a plural, putting a period at the end of a sentence, if they didn't put silent E at the end of their words, she makes a note of it and she groups for the following week on what they need. So she might have 6 groups or 10 groups. She might meet with some kids for 5 minutes or 2 minutes. What's really great, and we've tried to share with other teachers, is she tells those students exactly why they're there. On your quick check last week, you really struggled with the VAL Team AI. That's what we're going to review this week, and we're going to work on it, which is really nice. She happens to be a really good friend of mine. I think she was going to be on our call tonight, but I haven't seen her name pop up. But
I just want to elevate her. Can you give her name a little shout out, please?
sure, it's Charity Thomas. I don't know if she's here or not, but she's
At
fabulous.
which school?
Peakview Elementary.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
So we went to her as like an expert and said, hey, will you share this? So she shared it with all the grade levels at her school. Ann and I recorded her giving her little presentation, and we shared it with our entire district. And then because of that, teachers reached out to her asking questions about how they could do that. So it really got people more interested in how to do flexible grouping. So we're hoping next year is not too big of a change.
Well, kudos to her for really going first and being a support to others. Thank you. In Middletown, we know you love instructional data. So what do you have for us?
Yeah. In the fall, after we got, our initial results back from the first round, the instructional indicators were super helpful for us, revealing kind of how we were structuring our small group instruction in the beginning. But I agree too, it's a lot of anecdotal note taking throughout the week as to how your kids are doing, and then sitting down and digesting that at the end and kind of regrouping, keeping it flexible, moving your kids the next week according to what they need. And I agree with also the point of, telling kids exactly why they're there and what they're there to learn and the reason for it. I will say that the data that I've collected along the way until the mid-year, it's basic observational anecdotal notes for the most part. But it's very sequential, move on to the next domain after receiving mastery.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. It's about that individual monitoring. Kudos to you. Thank you. All right, we are about halfway through our questions and we're about halfway through our session. So our next topic we're going to talk about is language. We are really excited to have new data around language comprehension. So if you could speak to us now about how you use that information from the language portion of the VALLSS assessment in your instruction this school year. Tori, can you kick us off?
Yeah, so in addition to the decoding pieces, there was also that language comprehension piece. So our teachers were able to use those components, the passage comprehension, the nonsense questions, nonsense sentences, and the vocab fluency to, again, really use that data to see students' specific areas of weakness and target that during instruction. So that piece, in addition to the decoding pieces, were really helpful.
Excellent, excellent. We don't want that to go overlooked, and that's wonderful to have that data. Ann?
Yeah, so the language portion of the assessment has been extremely helpful as it gives us a bigger picture of what our students know and what they can actually do. So for example, when looking at your first or kindergarten or first grade data and the indicators for the coding pieces are low or non-existent, but the language portion is high, we have discussions on the strengths for that student and how that can be very helpful for them. But we also, Tabitha and I also really noticed right away, our students struggled with retelling on that language comprehension piece. And so as coaches, we created some activities with the read alouds to incorporate that more of that retelling with stories, as we realized our teachers were not explicitly teaching that skill. It helped to remind our teachers that they need to be incorporating all of the Scars-Boras rope strands, not just the word recognition domain for K through 2.
Thank you so much for sharing that. That is so critically important to make sure that we are addressing both sides of that simple view, right? And really providing that direct, explicit instruction, developing our students' language. So throughout the year, how did you monitor growth? You all have touched a little bit on this, and you certainly have all seen student growth throughout the school year. So if you can elaborate a little bit on how you monitored that. Tara?
Throughout the school year, we monitor growth using Ames Web benchmark data for grades K through 5. Now that we have VALLSS, we have another piece of data to see a larger picture of the overall growth of a student. We have language comprehension data also, as well as the in-depth code-based assessment data, which is valuable when targeting skills for instruction to a class of students and individual learners.
Thanks, Tara. I love how you're looking at multiple data sources, all of those areas of the reading rope. Thank you. Tori?
Yeah, so I'm also in Culpeper, same as Tara. So a lot of the similar things at my school, we also use Ames Web for progress monitoring. And then we're also able to, from my perspective, I love VALLS and the information it gives. So when we're at care meetings, which is kind of like our MTSS model. So when we're at meetings talking about individual students with parents and other stakeholders in the school, we're able to use that data and look at our students that have moved and made progress to then use that data to make specific goals for those students, whether IEP goals or just individual student goals using that data, and then showing the progress and praising the students for making that growth.
Amazing. You all are amazing. I mean, you've touched on so many high leverage practices, from students understanding why they're in a specific group, working on a specific skill, knowing the objectives, individualized goal setting, have students being a part of that entire process, really building that agency. Thank you for sharing how important that is, that our students are involved in their growth. Hillary?
Yes, throughout the year, we completed phonics inventories and spelling inventories to monitor student growth. We also progress monitored and spiral reviewed skills that were previously taught throughout.
Okay, thank you for touching on those additional pieces you brought in, and Tabitha is going to add and do the same.
Yeah, so in addition to VALS, we gave, if the students came out high risk and even sometimes moderate risk students, they were given the letters phonics and decoding survey. I can't remember the exact name, and also the PAST assessment. So that gave our reading specialists and teachers more information on exactly what they needed to work on. We did that 3 times also throughout the year. And then, as Ann and I have talked about in previous questions, our teachers do what we call quick checks in our county. They're just kind of like weekly check-ins to make sure students are getting the skills that they have been taught. And there's also review built into those. We don't use a specific progress monitoring tool for that. They are based on the phonics lessons that we've been teaching, which I'm going to give a shout out to Ann. She made all of them for our county. So the quick checks go along with that. And then, of course, next year we're going to have a curriculum where we'll have more progress monitoring. But that's kind of how we kept data throughout the year.
Amazing. And Anne, we get to hear from you next.
So just kind of off of what Tabitha just said, yeah, they do the quick checks, and they have weekly bridge to practice meetings the reading specialist does with each grade level. And so that is the time that they look at those quick checks and they determine where the next steps are for the students. And then at mid-year, we also compared the VALS data with especially our moderate kids and our high-risk kids to determine what progress they made and set some goals for second semester for them.
Jen, you're muted.
Thank you. We're going to go into communicating that data in just a second, but I want to pause and just notice how you really emphasize the quick progress monitoring, right? All of these checks that people have mentioned for progress monitoring have not taken out of instructional time. They've really been quick and fluid and have helped to adapt those flexible groups. So thank you for sharing that. As you're going throughout the year and there's data and growth and different interventions and groupings occurring, how did you communicate that data and growth with parents and families? And if you can continue for us on that.
Sure. So we sent him the VALS newsletter that they provided together with the student summary attached to the report card. And then if parents were coming in for conferences, we held that information to give to them then, so that the classroom teacher or the reading specialist could speak to them in person about any or answer any questions that they might have about the information.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Communication with families is so important. Middletown, can you tell us a little bit about what that looks like for you?
Absolutely. Kind of like what Ann just said, the VLP does have a family-friendly letter, and we used that this year in the beginning. We did communicate the wristbands to the parents fall, winter, and spring. But it kind of feels now as we've learned a lot more about those domains. We feel excited to be able to share even more information with our parents and in the hopes of showing them ways that they can help their students at home as well. And those that haven't used VALLS that are on, there is such a wealth of information on there. So don't panic, don't worry. They already have the letter that you can use to send home. And we are very appreciative of all the work that you guys have done ahead of time so that we could use it this year.
Excellent. So big shout out to the VLP team there and helping you all to be equipped to communicate effectively with parents. Thank you so much for sharing that. So beyond the VALLS assessment, what were some changes that you made overall to instructional practices? You all have highlighted this a little bit tonight, but we know that you did a lot of preparation instructionally to be ready for the implementation of the Virginia Literacy Act. In doing that, what changes did you make? And knowing that, what advice would you give to other teachers who are going into implementation for perhaps the first time next school year? Kiara?
Yeah, this year I worked to help my teachers become more comfortable with the idea that when they're planning for small group instruction, we don't need to have 5 to 6 students in a group that receive an equal amount of time from the teacher each day. Not all students need the same targeted instruction or the same amount of additional instruction. We've also worked to reflect on how to determine the needs of each student, how to group them, and how to delegate our precious small group or remediation time. In addition to reflecting on how to effectively plan for our small group time, we've worked to consider what skills could be reviewed or retaught to the whole class. As a school, we have worked to shift our mindset that small group is more beneficial than whole group. Solid core, whole class instruction is essential. And if a majority of our students need the same skill type intervention, it is best to address it through whole group instruction. My advice for other teachers going into next school year is to be open to continuing to grow as educators and get excited for the positive changes that are taking place for our students. Teachers are receiving support and training, and while this may seem overwhelming, the interest in growing our students into proficient readers is at the heart of all the changes taking place.
I just love that thoughtful response. Thank you so much. That really is the focus that we all need to have, right? Tori?
So when I was a teacher, I only taught upper elementary and middle school. So I never had to teach a kid how to read. So I really appreciate all of you that are on that are doing that hard work and teaching kids how to read. And so one of the things that I did this year was get letters trained, which helped me with my instructional knowledge to then help support teachers and their instructional knowledge. We also have had a lot more conversations around reading and reading instruction this year. Susan Campbell, who you guys heard earlier, is our director of reading, and she has been a huge help to Emerald Hill and all of our students. We have weekly meetings with her to really drill down that data that I talked about doing earlier. She's a part of all of those conversations. We have a weekly time on the calendar set where we meet every week to look at the students individually, class data, and then talk about how we're going to move forward and support. So having those intentional times to sit down and look at data and make sure that those conversations are happening has been really helpful. And in addition, she has also come in and modeled for teachers, and she's also provided examples and given resources to staff, which has been really helpful. So that's kind of how we've started preparing.
Thank you so much for sharing that. We happen to be quite fond of Susan as well. So amazing work that you all are doing in Culpeper. And I love how your response really highlighted that our educational leaders are truly investing to become those instructional leaders, because that is truly the leadership that we all need and best for our students. So thank you for sharing that. Tabitha?
All right, so in Rockingham County, we've actually been preparing for the VLA for a while, I think even before some of us knew it was coming. So in 2021, all of our elementary teachers, K-5 EL SPED reading specialists were letters trained in volume 1. The following year, they were all letters trained in volume 2. And then this year, and last year as well, we've been training our new teachers as they come in. So our entire county and at the elementary level is letters trained, which has helped a lot with some of these changes. I will say, thinking towards next year for you guys who are just starting, the first year is really hard. We had a lot of hard conversations with phonics skills and decodables and why can't you tell me a reading level for my kid? A lot of that conversation went on. I think the letters training or any kind of professional development you can give your teachers is really going to be beneficial because it's totally a different way of thinking for a lot of them. And Anne can speak to it too. We had a lot of struggle our first year. And then even still, we have some holdouts. But we trained our teachers, and then we've supported them, like Ann and I have talked about, each week at school, reading specialists. We have coaches that support the reading specialists as well as teachers. And then as far as instruction goes, we really went away very quickly from traditional reading groups. They were still meeting like their red group and their blue group, but it was mostly phonics skills, doing a lot of phonological awareness, getting away from those like guided reading level reading groups, which was also very difficult for them. Now we're at a pretty good place with that. So when they saw the types of assessments or the subtests on VALLS, they were pretty comfortable with it. If they have not taught that way, it's going to seem very strange, I think, for them to see some of those components. We've helped them with that. And then moving into this year with the language piece of it, for K2, we really worked on talking about comprehension skills through read alouds, interactive read alouds. Our county built some of those for teachers to share and use this year. And then for our 3 through 5 teachers, we had some comprehension knowledge type lessons. Ann and I work with K2, so I can't talk too much for those, but that our upper grade teachers incorporated to get ready for next year as well. So we've been working hard. So my advice to you guys is you can do it, even if it seems tough.
Excellent. Thank you. And I really heard how that, I love how you highlighted the challenges that honestly we are all going to face. It's inevitable. Whenever there's change, there's challenge as well. And the progression that you all took, and in that you need to be patient. It does take time, but you got to a really solid place of implementations. Thank you so much for that transparency there. Middletown, you're in a similar situation.
Yeah, so we've been working towards this change for this is our 3rd year now. And it all started because our school leadership team had a shared vision for making instructional changes ahead of the VLA. And that really started because I went through letters myself. And I knew from the second I went through letters, there were changes that had to be made. So in order to accomplish this, our leadership team developed a very clear action plan. And our plan included our focus areas, our objectives, what we wanted to be our essential action steps, who was going to be responsible, and what we wanted our timeframes to be. So myself as a literacy coach and the instructional coach, we developed and delivered professional learning to grade levels on phonological awareness, phonics, syllables, syllable type, syllabication, morphology. And as we worked our way through each of those, that was followed up by supporting our teachers through a multitude of ways. So we did coaching cycles, collaborative planning with them. We created resources for their instruction, and so forth. That support was critical to the success of our plan. It allowed us to have these reflective coaching conversations centered around instruction and student performance. Chris, our IRT, she would gather our school and grade level data for our teams to review to determine also our progress toward those objectives throughout the year. And in addition, every time we met with our teams, we took time to allow them to celebrate their successes and their experiences about the instructional impact of the changes that we were making. And honestly, that excitement has been so contagious between our teachers and our grade levels. And I get just as excited about it too. Like that really has been what has made this work.
Yes, and I just want to spotlight you all and really instructional coaches. And as we talked about in our first panel last year, how valuable that instructional coaching really is, and those CLTs, and keeping those conversations and professional learning moving throughout the year. And then seeing the successes, and that's how we encourage growth, right? We want to be on board with things that we feel good that they are successful. So thank you for being a model for us for that. Hillary is going to wrap us up with this one.
Yes, this year we definitely were looking at skills and not reading levels. Using a scope and sequence of phonics skills that was explicit and systematic was extremely helpful to us. Also, teachers have become more purposeful in implementing effective reading strategies that are based on the science of reading.
Yes, with that time and practice becoming more effective. Thank you so much. So kind of on that topic of celebrations, it's timely. It's that time of year. We're getting our spring data in. This is where we really look at growth, and we celebrate those successes. So we've had some of you have wrapped that period up for the year, and we're going to share out some celebrations. So Anne, can you start us in that?
Sure. Tabitha, you might have to help me because I don't have that spreadsheet right in front of me, but all of our grade levels K through 3 made tremendous growth. We have some grade levels that have 0 high-risk kids. And we had two of our highest needs kindergarten classes, because we're always watching that kindergarten class as they come through. 2 of our highest needs kindergarten class, one had 14 out of, and I can't remember how many students, and that's what I didn't have in front of me. But she now only has 3 high-risk kids. At the beginning of the year, she had 14. And then one of my kindergarten teachers, and this is also a high needs school, meaning, high EL population, SPED population in this classroom. She had 10 out of 14 kids at the beginning of the year at high risk. She now has 16 low risk kids. No one came out high risk or moderate. So those were huge for us. And I believe in the teacher that Tabitha mentioned at the beginning that did the flexible grouping. She had 7 high risk kids at the beginning of the year. She's down to 4. So we've seen over 50% growth or loss of high-risk kids moving into moderate or low risk. So we've seen, it's been a lot of data the last 2 days, but we've seen a lot of successes, and it's been kind of fun to see that. So we're excited to talk to teachers about it.
That's absolutely amazing. That's what in MTSS we call tier transition, when you're going from needing that intensive intervention to being successful with less supports because you're achieving. That is what we want to see. And kudos to your whole entire team, because it does take a team. Getting to having no students who are at high risk in an entire grade level. I mean, that is a massive celebration. And the focus on early intervention is just so key. Thank you for sharing all of that. Tabitha, did you want to add anything there?
No, I think she got most of it. I was trying to look for the exact numbers, but I couldn't find the spreadsheet that quick. So I do know I was doing some of my schools today, and like Ann said, there are some grade levels that have 0. I think for one of my schools from K to 3, I think there were only 8 high-risk kids in the whole K through 3 grade levels. So we've been seeing some really good stuff. And it was not like that at the beginning of the year. I mean, we had teachers really struggling with the number of high-risk kids they had. So they really worked hard at using that data to be able to move those wristbands.
Well, thank you for sharing their successes, and thank you to all of them, again, your entire team for all of that work that they've done for students. So that does take us to our final few minutes here, and we do want to have an opportunity to share some exciting news about membership we have coming up. But before we do that, just one more time, I want to give incredibly huge thanks to this panel of professionals. Please give them some shout outs and some love in the chat for taking their time to really share their experiences being in the pilot this year, and really their brave work going ahead of the implementation schedule so we can all learn from them. So just thank you so much for your time and your sharing your expertise with us all this evening. Feel free to jump in if needed. But we're going to talk a little bit about something we find really exciting with the implementation of VLA, and that's our membership.
Yeah, I was just gonna unmute and really fast first thank all of the panelists for sharing their experiences. I really love hearing how everyone is using the data in schools. And I've talked to most of you, or many of you through the hotline this year. So it's nice to see your faces. But I also wanted to share that I was trying to respond to most messages in the chat, but Angelique helped me out and took a list of all the questions. So I'll make sure to get all of those responses in an email, and Jennifer can get those out to you all. And then I did want to share a few questions came in, just people asking about how VALLS is different than PALS and some of the changes to expect. And while there's not, a sample public version of the literacy screener anywhere, I recently did a presentation at the VLA conference, the VSLA conference, and I recorded that presentation, and it's in a Vimeo video format now on our website. So I'm putting that link in the chat for everyone. That should be a public link, and it's long, and I apologize. It's just my voice talking for about 33 minutes. It's not very exciting, but it has a lot of information about the screener and some of the changes that you can expect.
That's excellent. Thank you so much for staying on top of that chat. And as I mentioned in the beginning of the presentation as well, we have all of our previous professional learning on our website, and we have had the pleasure of having sessions on the VALLS and the different data gained from that. So head on over to our website for additional resources as well. All right, and that takes us to membership.
We are excited for this school year coming up, especially because of the implementation of the Virginia Literacy Act for the 2024-25 school year. In light of this, we are thrilled to be making the Reading League Virginia membership free for the coming school year. Woo-hoo! To thank you for joining us here this evening, you have first access to the free membership, which will become active September 1st. 2024 and run until June 30th, 2025. Using this link will reserve your free registration to become active in September. This will apply to you whether you are a first-time member or a returning member. Also, feel free to click on the links for our Virginia Reading League shop where you can purchase apparel. It's also available. And also membership, you can join on either one of the links that have been provided. Back to you, Jen.
Thank you so much, Jacqueline. We are so excited about our membership for next year. Please share that information. That membership will be free starting in September. We are thrilled to have returning members and new members come on board. So I hope that you all sign up for that, so we get to see you a lot more as we all celebrate the implementation of VLA. And Susan is going to talk to you about some more opportunities.
Yeah, so again, we do want to take a chance. This will be our last event of this school year. So we do want to thank all of our board members who worked for the for the TRL-VA chapter this year to bring events and put information out. Like Jen said, please visit our website. VLP was so gracious with their time earlier and this year to provide an event that was really just focused on what you can expect from VALLS and how it is different from PALS. So we've been trying really hard all year to bring you, the information that we feel like will help you be the best educator and provide evidence-based literacy instruction for your students. We're super excited looking forward. Again, as Jacqueline and Jen said, we are really excited to have work so that we can offer free membership to everyone for the upcoming school year. We also are excited to announce our upcoming board and to remind everyone that if you are interested in a leadership role or serving on a committee, that you can find, there's a way to indicate that on that registration form. And if you want more information about what that entails, you can let us know through that form as well, and we will definitely be in touch with you. So if you're interested or you know someone who is a great literacy leader, please let us know. We got to highlight some fantastic educators across the Commonwealth tonight, and we know there are more out there. So we want to hear from you and know who are those great literacy leaders working hard for our students every day. So let us know that as well. We're also excited about another opportunity. So as you can imagine, you know, everyone at TRL Virginia is so excited about the implementation of the Virginia Literacy Act. Just to echo the sentiments tonight, it's fantastic working right now where literacy is the most important thing in our Commonwealth. So we're super excited. We're going to be hosting an event that it's going to be a VLA kickoff on July 20th. And this is also going to be one of our first opportunities to have in-person events. So we're hosting an event at different locations across the Commonwealth. Please spread the word so that we can come together and celebrate the VLA. If there's still time to volunteer to host a location if you want to make sure an in-person event is held close to your home. So check out our email address in the chat and email us for more information if you would like to host an event. And then we will be spreading the word soon in the upcoming weeks with where those exact locations will be that you can join us in person. Again, also don't forget to fill out that membership form that's going to be in the chat, and you just saw on the QR code to go ahead and reserve your free membership for the TRL-VA Virginia for next school year. Again, just want to thank our wonderful panelists tonight for sharing their insight, and thanks to all of our members who supported for the support you've given to the Virginia Reading League this chapter this year. We want to thank everyone for their time tonight, and we hope to get to see everyone on July 20th. Have a great evening.
Thanks, everyone. Hope to see you on July 20th.